Spring has sprung in Sturgeon Bay, Wisconsin. This is where I currently live and do all my guiding. It's a really unique part of the world where you could go out of one boat landing and go catch trophy walleyes, trophy smallmouths. You could hang a left and go out to Lake Michigan and enjoy all the awesome trout and salmon fishing that we have out there. We're gonna take advantage of Wisconsin's catch and release bass season. We have some warm weather. The smallmouths are starting to come in from their winter haunts, not too far away from getting ready to spawn. We're gonna go target some flats, stuff like this, where this is all 3 to 5 feet. There's some little holes and depressions in there. Smallmouths love flats in the springtime. They like to get up in that sun, warmer water. A big thing on the Great Lakes is transition lines. So we're gonna look for, maybe some bigger boulders. And as we progress more towards the spawn, we're gonna get on like sand to rock transitions. So one big key, when you're fishing the Great Lakes, there's obviously a pile of water. You need to be able to knock it down quickly and find the productive stuff. So I rely heavily on my mapping. This VX card has all the shading on it. So anything, less than that 10 foot is gonna have more red to it. So I can tell you right now, a lot of fish probably spawn in this bay, the back of this bay, all these shallow red flats. Like I know smallmouths are gonna spawn on this stuff. It makes it real easy to see that. Now I just need to figure out what stage they're in, in the winter time. That's where they're gonna spend their winter, out in 50, 60, 70, 80 feet of water on these deeper edges and deeper points. So just keep in mind of where they are in the winter time, where they're gonna be going to when they're ready to spawn, and we're gonna look to intercept them in between those places today. So one thing I like to do, just to break the water down faster, is take full advantage of my side imaging. I don't run it out real far. I'll usually keep it 80 to 100 feet. That way, if I do go over a school of fish, I'll see them. But if you look at this high spot here, this comes up to about 8 foot, and it's solid rock, bigger chunk rock. And then you get off to the edge here at about 10, 11, all that rock breaks and turns to sand. And those are like the transition lines that I was talking about. Those fish will sit right on those edges, and they use that, kind of like a highway to move up to where they're eventually gonna spawn. So just key things to look for. I'll look for, there might be sand spots in the middle of the rocks. There's a bigger boulder right there. And then you can see there's actually a steeper edge that's not showing up on the map, or it breaks a little faster and a bunch of sand mixed in it right there. Like that's money in the springtime for smallmouths on the Great Lakes. Just finding those areas where you have sand mixed with that bigger rock. So these fish are primarily feeding on gobies, which live right on the bottom down in those rocks. So ultimately, when I find these little sweet spots, I'm gonna hop up on the bow, and then I heavily rely on my 360 so I can make precise casts to those little sweet spots. A lot of times you won't see these fish on forward-facing sonar. I mean, if you're talking rocks that are like this and they're down in those rocks picking off gobies, and you won't even see them on forward-facing sonar. So it's still very important to rely on 360, side imaging, finding those sweet spots and fishing the spot. You can't always just see them on forward-facing sonar like everybody thinks. A lot of places in the world, these fish will just, nomadically roam around out in deep water and chase forage. With the gobies here, they're more related to the bottom more than they're not. This giant boulder right in the middle of a sand patch. See that big rock with all the sand around it? That's gonna be a key spot that I'm gonna stop and fish. So when we side image through here, there's 2 big boulders. You can see them on the 360, and there they are on my Mega Live. And all those short marks around that are all bass crawling around. That's a big one. And that right there is what Sturgeon Bay is all about. Start off the day with a 5. Beauty. Oh. So one key, because this water is so clear, I mean, we're sitting in 7 feet of water. It's not real bright out. I can see everything down there. So the key is to stay off of the fish. So after I go mark all these sweet spots, boulders, transitions, whatever they may be, on my 360, I can see the waypoints that I dropped on those objects. Right now I'm looking out at 80 feet. So that giant boulder is 80 feet from my boat. Typically, I try to stay at least 50 to 60 feet off of the targets of where, you know, I plan on catching those bass. Just because the water's so clear, they get spooky. Seems like we always have wind on the Great Lakes. So once I get close to these areas I want to fish, I can hit the button, spot lock my boat, concentrate on the fishing and casting around. So by hitting spot lock, that allows me to get that fish in the boat, unhook it, put it back, and get right back to where those fish are. There's another one. Little guy. That's a good average size. You know, it's probably a 3.5 pound fish, and there are tons of those in this lake. Dude, they're all fun. Big. Two keys, always have a long rod so you can cast these light, tiny little baits a long ways. So I like a 7-1 or a 7-3. And another one is having a spinning reel with a really good drag, because these fish like to pull hard. I've got the new 13 Fishing Axiom with the comp drag in it. Super silky smooth. You know, you're only fishing with an 8 or 10 pound leader most times. So chubby little pre-spawner. Look at the belly on that thing. It's just a thick fish. When they're pre-spawn like this, they really like to get grouped up. We've been on spot lock on the same boulder, and we've caught several of them off of it. There's still several more on it. You find those key little spots, you figure out what they like on that particular day, and you don't have to go very far. You know, there's days out here where you can sit on one spot all day long, and these fish will just keep coming through in waves and staging on those little key spots. And when they get on the goby deal, I mean, a lot of green pumpkins, green pumpkin, purple flecks, stuff that actually looks like a goby, from 3-inch swim baits like this Mayor to small tubes to Ned rigs. You know, these are all key baits to imitate a goby and trigger those fish into biting. Now, there are times where fishing a swim bait up off the bottom or a jerk bait, you know, there's a lot of smelt around in the Great Lakes as well. There are certain days where they'll start keying in on, you know, alewives or smelt, and they'll be up higher in the water column. And that's where you want to throw your swim baits, jerk baits, stuff like that. But when this water is really cold, like it is right now, you know, early in the year, high 40s, maybe touching 50, these fish are really picky and they want stuff moving slow and they want it on the bottom. The one key to fishing smallmouths out here, also leave your bait casters at home and bring a lot of spinning poles. All I fish is braided line, you know, 10 or 20 pound braid, and then I'll tie, you know, a 6 to 8 foot, 8 or 10 pound fluorocarbon leader to that. The fluorocarbon will disappear in the water, acts as a little bit of a shock absorber with your braided line. But having that braid fluoro combo allows me to, you know, feel everything that my bait's doing down there. It definitely helps in the wind as well to have that sensitivity, feel what your bait's doing, feel those subtle little bites when the water's cold like this. You can fish multiple presentations on the same rod and reel combo. You got another bass. Big beauty. Just a bunch of the sun's kind of popping out a little bit. These fish are sitting up in like 4 feet of water, and every one we've caught off this spot is a female. So they're just up there sunning themselves, warming their eggs up, doing what bass do. And that's a beauty. Humminbird, Mega 360, and Mega Live. Both of them have their purpose. I like to use the 360 just to see the structure. And then once I get up to that piece of structure and I kind of can see where the sweet spot is, I'm gonna use my Mega Live to, scan over, see if there's a fish on it. Now, something that I've noticed over the past couple of years of fishing with Mega Live, you can't always see them. If they're tight to the bottom, you're not gonna see them on any kind of forward-facing sonar. So it's key to obviously use both of them in conjunction. So what I'm saying there is I might use my Mega Live to just, pinpoint my cast and put my bait right on that sweet spot. So another thing, like how tall objects are in the water, whether it be a rock or a tree, sometimes it's hard to see, on your 360 how high that object is sticking up off the bottom. Or if you scan your live over it, that gives you a definite answer of how tall that object is. Got it. Good one. On the bed. Got one to eat the Ned finally. Little swinging Ned head and a Ned BLT. Nice. That thing is a bad little dude. That hook articulates on that head so it can just sit there and float.